20 minutes. You take the lid off, you can add your oil. We'll talk about different oils too, because I know that can often be a question of how do I know which oil to use? So top your jar then full of oil as high as you can while still being able to close it. Any oxygen that's left in the jar is gonna lead to, anaerobic, things to proliferate. So we want to just be careful about leaving too much oxygen as well. Then leave that in a cool, dry place and let that steep for 2 to 4 weeks. You can certainly shake it every day. Maybe you have a lineup of all of the extracts you're making and you just make that a ritual daily of just shaking them. That's totally fine. But if you forget, that's okay too. They'll do the extracting for you. So that's how I like to make really potent dried plant oils. Now, when I work with fresh plants, sometimes I'll often wilt them for a day or two before I go ahead and start to infuse them into oil. I'll of course chop them up, but I don't choose to do like the powdering method or grinding in that way, because that's really going to push a lot of water out. And again, water and oil, we know, don't mix. So I don't want to do that. But I'll just chop it up nicely to expose the surface area. And again, I'll do that same trick of the alcohol, because I really do find that helps to open up surface area. And not only that, but alcohol is very preservative. So it's going to help to preserve the oil even further, which is what we're really looking for. And then just like the last one, the dried plant oil we made, steep 2 to 4 weeks and then strain. And one pro tip too about straining your fresh plant oils is to make sure that you're not squeezing all of the oil out of the fresh plant material. It's totally fine to do that with the dried powdered herb, but with fresh, remember there's water still held in those plants. So what we'll do is do like a passive strain, which I find to be really effective. You just let the herbs strain, whether you're using like a cheesecloth or a coffee filter, you'll let them strain on your countertop, but no squeezing, because we just don't want the water to go. So sometimes I'll even let them passively strain overnight. And then just when I wake up in the morning, bottle them. Okay, so that's all about infusing the most potent herbal oils. So I did what we're going to use in our cream tonight. I did a fresh calendula bloom oil, harvested at the lovely Red Clover Apothecary Farm, my friend Nancy's farm. And so I did this, of course, it was fresh when we harvested from the farm. So I did this, the fresh plant infusion method that we just talked about, and no squeezing, just passive straining. All right.
What kind of oil?
Calendula.
But what kind of?
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about the different oils. Olive oil is what I use, extra virgin olive oil. And that's typically what I tend to use when I make infused oils. I like that it has a moderate, it can do well with kind of moderate heat, but with herbal oils, most of the time we're hopefully not heating them up, because that could make them go off faster. But yeah, I like extra virgin olive oil. I know some people prefer, there's all kinds of different ones you can do, but almond oil, I know some people like. I had used that for quite a while, earlier in my career of making body products, but I just kind of fell off of it, because I think mostly just ordering it, having to find a good bulk amount of it. And then also not really being sure how long it had been sitting at whatever facility, and not sure how rancid it could go. So I don't know, I think I just felt like olive oil is more shelf stable. And so I tend to love to use olive oil. I also see how medicinal olives are as well. And I feel like that adds to the medicine too. If you think of the olive tree, medicinally, it's helpful for boosting your immune system. It also moves the lymph, so I feel like it adds some of its medicine, especially to calendula, which also works on the lymphatic system and makes a really nice oil. Yeah, I don't really use anything other than olive oil. I'm curious for folks that do make herbal body care, what's your favorite oil to infuse into?
I use a lot of olive oil now as well. I just did a little almond sunflower I did for a while, but I don't really like it that
And
much.
I do sunflower
You do
because it's a
sunflower?
local, because I've been trying to find oils that are local. So
Where do
like
you get a local
Smoodays.
sunflower?
Smoodays is a local company.
Say the name again.
Smoodays is
Smoodays.
SMUDES. So, and I like it. And then Tammy Sweet said that it's more absorbable to the body, but she
Okay.
wanted to test and see if it's as extractable because olive oil is extracting.
Yeah, it is excellent.
So
at
I
that.
just, I don't know. I like it. It kind of smells like nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as long as it's local, you could tell that it would be fresher. I guess I worry about
Yeah.
rancidity a lot with my oil.
It never smells rancid.
Okay.
And I'm sensitive to that, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And I know sunflower is so supportive for the adrenals too, so I would be
Yeah.
maybe just
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Awesome. Anybody else in the chat box have, I don't know, oils that they like?
Chime in if you're on Zoom.
Yeah. It's hard for me to like be
I know.
in both spaces and times at once. Okay.
No one chiming in.
Okay, cool. Well, if you have any questions about what type of oil to extract with, I'd be happy to answer. But yeah, I like plain old olive. It's easy for me. So, okay, let's get started. Now the recipe I'm going to use tonight is loosely based off of Rosemary Gladstar's Perfect Cream recipe, if you're familiar with that. What's great with this recipe is that you can amend it in a million different ways. So I love that about it. Essentially, you're using just equal parts oils and waters, which we just talked about, oil and water, not really mixing, but I'm going to show you how to properly emulsify them. If you have made your own mayonnaise before, you're already ahead of the curve. So that's like my favorite thing to do these days is make my own mayo. I feel so good about it. Okay. I have lots of eggs to use, so. All right, so equal parts oils and waters. And what the oils I'm using tonight are, I'm gonna use 3/4 cup of my calendula infused olive oil. And then I'm going to use 1/4 cup of good old coconut oil. I like the coconut oil in this cream recipe. It's not always my favorite for body care for me personally, as far as my constitution, because it tends to be a little bit cooling and drying, and I'm already cold and dry. So I don't always like to use it for body care, but for this recipe, I do feel like it really works with the other more oily, and with the beeswax. It just helps create a more balanced cream. You could certainly, like I said, this recipe is easily amendable. So you could replace coconut oil with shea butter. Just know that it's going to change the consistency a little bit, which I do really enjoy, changing out the coconut oil for shea butter. It can be nice and more substantial as a cream, a little bit more like a body butter, but not even quite there. And it stays on the skin a lot better. So question.
We did just get a few oil chime-ins. So
Oh, good.
we've got apricot oil being used and
Mhm.
coconut oil is a question which you've answered already. And then grapeseed oil is one that someone's using as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I used grapeseed oil for a while. I had heard that it was nice and good to use at higher heats. But yeah, I always kind of have that question about how long has it been sitting around, and I don't know how I'm careful too about too many polyunsaturated fatty acids, not only in my diet, but on my skin. So I feel like I like to stick with more saturated fats on the skin. I feel like they stay better and really nourish. But yeah, grapeseed, I know I've had good results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of saturated fat, at the Herbal conference, one of my friends there is beef tallow.
Yes.
And so I've been really loving making beef tallow facial stuff.
Yes. I love tallow. I've even taught my herbal students use lard and things like that too. I render my own lard.
Yeah.
And I had a student that had great results with actually a lard infused body butter. It really soaks in well, and actually with animal fats, it shows that it actually soaks deeper from the epidermis actually down to the dermis. So I really like it too for like muscle pain rubs and things. If you're really trying to get deep for pain, that's really awesome. I actually both my pain cream and pain salve, I use deer tallow. Yeah. So if you know any hunters in your life, yeah, you might want to make friends. And yeah, I feel like if you render it properly, there's not like you're not going to smell like bacon. You know what I mean? It should smell.
Yeah, it's
clean.
clean. It's surprisingly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. Also more shelf stable.
Tallows.
Yes, because it's saturated. So you can keep it at room temperature and really not have as much of a problem as things going off. So cool. Yeah, great question. All right, so back to the recipe. We'll do 3/4 cup. I'm gonna measure down here. 3/4 cup of this calendula infused olive oil. Beautiful. And anywhere from 1/2 to 1 ounce of beeswax. Of course, you can replace, the beeswax with other kinds of, carnauba wax and things like that. I've just never worked with them personally, but you could make, a vegan cream doing that. And then 1/4 cup of good old coconut oil from the vat here. So glad I remembered my rules. It's always like, oh no, what if I forget the one thing? So this is our oils portion, or you could consider it a butters portion if you're going to be using, shea butter or any of that good stuff. And we'll get it melting. This is the part where you kind of wish, at least online, you had like a 10 minutes later thing.
Yeah, right. I know, well, we don't laugh.
Yeah. So
You're not actually using deer tallow right now.
no, I'm
Would that
using
be
coconut
instead of the
oil.
coconut oil? Would that be instead of the coconut oil?
Yes. You could do that. So that's typically what I do. Or you could switch it out for shea butter or even cocoa butter. That's going to make a much thicker cream though. So just beware that things will shift. When you use the coconut oil, it's a nice thin lotion almost. You could almost put it in a pump bottle and it would be nice and thin enough for that.
So if you were going to use something thicker like shea butter, then you'd maybe increase the amount of calendula oil to balance it out, or does that not really change?
That doesn't change for me. I'm just
Okay.
aware that it's going to be more substantial. Also, I'll tend to use more beeswax, say in the summertime, if I'm going to be shipping creams. You want to be thoughtful about that and the heat. So sometimes I'll bump it up to like 1 ounce of beeswax instead of a 1/2 ounce. And then in the winter, use more like 1/2 ounce beeswax. But that doesn't change the recipe too much, except for it will cool faster and harden. So, knocking this down.
Where do you get your beeswax?
I live across the street from a honey farm now. So Wolf Honey Farm lives across the street from me, if you're familiar with them. So that's where I get it. And then I don't know, I get gifted beeswax a lot. So that's kind of nice too.
It's a good gift.
Yeah. But you get the herbalist who has everything is beeswax for sure.
Always needed.
Yeah. Or deer tallow.
Deer tallow. I know. I'm like, oh, I must.
Yeah.
See that pictures.
Feels so nice. And I feel like it extracts the scents better too, if you're infusing, you know, herbs into it. Okay, of course, you can also infuse your coconut oil with herbs. Certainly you're gonna need to melt down the coconut oil. So I love, you know, at the thrift store, you always see those teeny tiny crock pots. You can always melt down some coconut oil and add herbs to that. Let that steep, of course, not even like at a bubble or a simmer, just on the keep warm setting, and let those infuse for a day or so, and then jar them up and continue to let them infuse. Of course, it'll harden again, but there's still some magic happening in there.
Oh, we have another question here.
Okay.
Just clarifying, 3/4 a cup of infused oil.
Yes, and then 1/4 cup of coconut oil. Maybe when we get the whole recipe out there, you could just type
The whole thing
at
up. Yeah,
once,
for sure.
so everyone has that to.
And then another question, is it only the beeswax in there being melted right now? Or the oils are in there as well?
The oils are in there, but I would say melt the beeswax and coconut oil first. I just got overly excited and I put the oil in, but I really truly don't like to heat up my oil. So I would recommend melting the beeswax and coconut oil first together, or any other butters that you're using, and then add your oil. It will kind of like cool the beeswax again, so you have to keep warming it a little, but.
There's another question about vitamin E oil and rosemary and antacid and yogurt as preservatives.
Yes, I love vitamin E oil. I use it every now and again. It certainly preserves the shelf life, and it helps with any polyunsaturated fat content in the oils. Those, when I'm talking about polyunsaturated fats, those are just the least shelf stable type of oil. So I'm cautious about those. People call them PUFAs. I'm cautious about those in my skincare because it can lead to rancidity a lot quicker. So the vitamin E is actually the antidote to that and can really lengthen the shelf life of those polyunsaturated fats. So I do like vitamin E oil. It can just make, you know, the cream a little more costly, but you know, if you're really gonna want something nice for yourself, I think that's a good thing to go about doing. I don't tend to use rosemary antioxidant. I have in the past, but it's not something that's in my typical recipe. It's just, yeah, not one that's super accessible, so I don't use it. But yeah.
There was another question in the chat about typing in the instructions as we go, and I can't do that because we only have one computer and it would look weird, but I will type it up and we'll get it sent out in the next newsletter, so you will have the instructions sent that way.
Great. Okay, melting this wax here. I don't want to turn it up too high and fry the oil. We're not trying to make a fried body cream tonight, so it's just going to be slow going. And you have more questions while we wait, or I could.
So you just have beeswax in there.
And calendula infused oil. It's infused into olive oil.
And I missed when you were talking about the infusing, but do you ever, like, I know some herbalists will put it out in the sun.
Yeah.
And rather than heating, I mean, it's still a heat.
Yeah.
But like, I have done that sometimes, like put my stuff in the oil and just put it in the sun.
Yes, I do that with my St. John's oil only. I feel okay about it because I do that little alcohol step. You might have missed that.
Oh, I missed that.
But I put a teaspoon of alcohol in my fresh St. John's wort oil, and we have St. John's wort in the field behind our house. So I just harvest it, do it right in the field, you know, and then bring it home. And that's the one I'll leave out for at least a day in the sunshine, like right on the solstice, and infuse that solar energy into the St. John's wort. But otherwise, I just feel like I'm worried about rancidity. So it ups that chance for me if I leave it in the sun too long. Yeah, it does add like a more solar energy too. So it's like, I don't know.
The amount of beeswax that was melted was 1/2 to 1 ounce, you were saying, correct?
Yep, you can change it up depending on the season of the year. So if it's Summertime, I'll use more like 1 ounce of beeswax. In the winter, I'll stick to more like half to, 0.75 or something like that.
And then how much vitamin E oil would you consider putting in if you were using it?
About a teaspoon.
For the size batch.
Yeah, for this size batch. Or you could just, if you get them in capsules, just break the capsule. That's about a teaspoon too of the vitamin E. Getting close.
Do you have any techniques that you like for like breaking down your beeswax? If you get like a big clump of it.
A good old knife and yeah, do you have a better choice?
I cheese grater.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
A cheese grater?
Yeah, it does get really good.
A beekeeper told me once to freeze it and then smack it with a hammer, and I
Awesome.
love it. It works really well. So
I've done that with cocoa butter.
Yeah.
But I never thought to do it with beeswax.
Yeah, I'll put it in like a muslin bag, and then I wrap that in a towel, and then I just like beat it with a hammer.
Awesome.
So broken up.
I have a friend who she's like, just melt it, pour it onto like parchment paper or something flat, and then you can break it in little shards. And I thought, so I'll usually do that, and then I have a jar of my shards, so it's easier to take out a little chunk.
Yeah, I used to pour them into those silicone molds too, and we used to sell them at the medicine tree because they're cute and you can weigh them out, so like, oh, this is 1 ounce or this is half an ounce, and have it all set up for you.
What was that mold you said?
Just a silicone mold that you can get at like the craft store, and just pour them in
Like
all at
biscuit
once.
tray and silicone, those little,
Yeah, but you can get all those cute little designs and you have flowers or hearts or whatever.
Does it
Okay.
matter if you melt it and re-harden it over and over?
Over and over. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it would shift much about that. Okay. This was about 0.75 beeswax that I put in here. I might just take it out a touch before it's all melted. I don't want it to get too hard. Should have like someone telling jokes or something doing this part. Okay.
How much coconut?
A 1/4 cup. Yep, so we're looking at equal parts of oils and waters. So in this recipe, it's 1 cup oil mixture, which would be coconut oil and calendula oil, and then 1 cup waters. And I have not weighed that portion or measured that portion out yet, so I'll get there next. Now the next step is to pour this into your blender of choice. If you're using a handheld immersion blender, just pour this into a bowl and that would be fine. Now this is the part where you want to find just the sweet spot. So we're not going to start blending this until there is an opaque layer on the top of this oil mixture. So now this is where I'll do my water portion while I'm waiting for this to cool. Okay. And
is it going to ruin your blender?
No,
no.
I've used this blender for cream about 100 times, but I will say,
no, with other things. So if I want to,
I was just going to say, yeah, I have a blender for creams and a blender for smoothies.
Okay.
And not because it ruins it. Like if you clean it out right away when the oils and stuff is still hot, you can, hot soapy water will clean it up real nice. So I'm not too worried about that, but if I'm going to be selling products, I want to make sure I have separate, non-contaminated things. And you can get nice, I got this at the thrift store for like $7-8. So you can get nicer blenders there for your cream making and not break the bank. You don't need a Vitamix or anything. So, okay, next we'll weigh the waters portion. So that is 2/3 of a cup. I'm using rose hydrosol. You can use rose water. Those are the same things. And I I usually either will, home distill my hydrosol or just purchase some. They have a lot of different ones on Mountain Rose Herbs, which is really nice. You can choose all kinds of beautiful things, frankincense or orange peel or lemon, yada, yada. Or if you have a little still or you do a makeshift still at home, you can distill all kinds of fun things on your own too that no one's ever come up with.
So 1 cup of the rose water?
2/3 cup rose hydrosol and then 1/3 cup aloe vera. And this is the gel.
Okay.
So not like the juice that you buy at the deli. You could, strip your inner fillet if you have an aloe plant at home. You just want to be sure that you're not getting any of the outer part of it on there. And I think that, I think this is just the gel. And I was just wondering about shelf stability with that, if that would change. I don't know for sure. Oh yeah, they do have some stabilizers in here. So if you use the fresh fillet from your own house aloe plant, it probably would be less shelf stable. So you just might want to keep that in mind. You could certainly always keep your cream in the fridge, be a nice cold cream. Just don't get it mixed up between your mayo or whatever else. Okay. Still waiting for this. I have seen herbalists too make their herbal infused creams with using tea as the water portion. I would just say, again, that's really not shelf stable. You're not going to be able to sell that cream, at anywhere really, because it's going to go off within a couple of weeks to maybe you'll get a month out of it. And you'd have to keep it in the fridge the whole time. So I would caution against doing that. Even if you add vitamin E or rosemary, antioxidant or essential oils, I just don't think that is super safe. Okay, so here's my waters portion, 1 cup total. And now we just wait for that sweet spot. You could put this into the refrigerator to speed along the process, but I see a lot of times, first of all, I'm more of a sanguine type person, so I'll get distracted and I'll be doing other things or having a conversation, and then I'll forget about this in the fridge, and then I'll have to scrape it out and remelt it down if it goes too far to cooling. So I just like to wait and watch. It buys me a little bit more time and I see it there, so it's not out of mind.
And you're looking for it to just turn a little bit opaque, you said?
Right on the top, it should just kind of form a thin layer of like opaqueness. And then we're gonna blend. And it's really fun to watch it transform in front of your very eyes. So, are there any questions on there? Oh, okay.
I don't think anything. Oh,
so I cannot hear the.
How long do the creams last is the new question.
I say 6 months to 1 year. But I have some that have lasted longer. I'm my own, guinea pig, I guess. But I wouldn't sell any that were, that old, of course.
Are there any other water things creative things you've done, and not like a tea, but instead of the hydrosol, or other different water things you've put in creams?
I really try to stay safe with the hydrosol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's something else fun you could do. I've tried adding witch hazel when I've been out of hydrosol before, and then infusing herbs into the witch hazel. I just don't feel like it emulsifies as well. I don't know if it's the astringency or what. I still have sometimes put maybe up to a tablespoon of witch hazel if I really want it to be a tonifying cream. But yeah, usually that doesn't throw off the formula, but I think a whole 2/3 cup would be a little bit too much. I also often will add extracts to the waters portion. So if you're looking to, you know, up some of the antioxidant quality to your cream, or, you know, you want some more of those skin healing herbs to add to there, I love adding burdock root and or seed extract to my waters portion. Yeah, and alcohol. Yeah, tincture.
In place of the water.
No, just in addition to like just some squirts of tincture. We're talking, not like a whole. I have tried more, like, you know, more like a third cup of tincture, and that's too much. It does not emulsify properly.
The alcohol.
That's yep. But I just add like squirts of tincture. So calendula I've done. I love, like I said, burdock root and or seed. I do that a lot in my eczema creams or any acne creams and things like that. Or like, yeah, psoriasis, rosacea, burdock root or seed is really great for those conditions. So I'll add that to there. And if I'm making a breast cream, I've added poke root tincture to that, you know, to move the lymphatics, or lavender extract, violet extract, all of those lovely things too. So you can really play around with switching it up.
The question was, what would you use for age defying?
Oh, is that what they said?
Yeah.
They couldn't hear? Okay, age defying. Well, I would probably use rose hip infused oil, just like the straight, you know, rose fruits. Also chaga, the mushroom. Technically it's a sclerotia.
It's chaga infused in oil, or?
Yep, I'll do chaga and rose hip infused into oil. And then, gosh, age defying, what would you, I mean, to me, I feel like burdock keeps you young. So I really love that one. Geranium, like essential oil, or beautiful. Yeah, totally. Frankincense. Yeah, I love that as hydrosol as well. For the cream, really nice.
Is there any reason you put the tincture in the water portion instead of the oil portion?
Yes, because yeah, it wouldn't emulsify in the oil. So it goes right into the waters. Also the calendula infused oil, as far as your question with age defying, that helps restore collagen and builds the skin in that way too. So elderflower too brightens the skin. Rose tonifies, so many different ones that we could use for that.
There's another question about where you like to get your olive oil. Do you have a good source?
Good question. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember. It was like a nice small company that I had started getting olive oil from. I'll have to look into it and maybe, email you what that was. But there was a nice family-owned olive oil company that I had gotten something that I really liked. Otherwise, I'll just get it, from the co-op, or nothing too fancy.
You get the aloe and the rose oil or hydrosol from the co-op as well?
I got this from Frontier. It's just lily of the desert, and then the rose hydrosol is mountain rose herbs. Okay, it's almost there. I can see it forming. Here.
I'm assuming you have a separate pan for making melting oils and stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, this has never been used before. Making its debut tonight. That's what their stores and things are good for. But I usually use a double boiler. It's like a antique double boiler that I have at home that I make all my herbal oils, and it's got it's coated in all kinds of pine resins and beautiful things. Felt like that was maybe a little too rustic here for the guild, so I didn't bring that one along with me.
What happens if you cook it at too high of a temperature? I mean, you're trying to go low, but what happens?
Might burn your oil.
It would just smell funny.
Yeah.
Rancid,
you would probably rancidify, and it could smell, it could impart a smell. And then you might just kind of want to dump it and start over.
Okay.
It's a sad day when that happens, but sometimes it's the way it goes. I think that's happened to me the most when I make infused oils in a crock pot, because I do like to sometimes infuse, like I've infused kava root into oil, especially when I'm preparing for birth. I like to get massaged with kava root on my back. And so I'll use a crock pot method for that and infuse it for like 3 days. And I've had a burned oil situation that happened once, and that's never fun. But yeah, the keep warm setting is your friend if you're doing it in the crock pot. But otherwise, yeah, just try not to get distracted. A watched pot, I guess. I know. Let's see. I know, it's just a little ring. Oh, let's see. Trying to think of other time.
Did you kind of go over what you did at the very beginning?
Yeah, so we talked about infused oils, and we talked about a couple tips that I had for making more potent infused oils. So my first tip was, if you're making an infused oil with dried plant matter, that you powder the herbs first. However you like to do that. You could do it with a mortar and pestle like somebody recommended, or you could do, I like the bullet blender, NutriBullet or whatever, to powder my herbs, or you could even do it in a blender like that. And then I'll pour that into my jar and fill it, the jar that I'm using, whatever size that would be, I fill it halfway with powdered herbs. Then I add a teaspoon of alcohol per half cup of dried herb that I'm using, and I'll cover that and let that infuse for 20 minutes. I'll shake it up so it, spreads around. That helps to open up the surface area even further and help to start a deeper extraction process than what I feel like the oil can do. And then after the 20 minutes is up, I'll top my jar with oil and make sure it's as full as possible, the least amount of oxygen possible, so that there's no chance of anything proliferating in the oil. And then I'll let that steep for 2 to 4 weeks. Make sure you label it, all that good stuff. And then just strain it out.
Do you prefer dried over fresh then?
I do for people just starting out. I think you'll have a lot more success, and that can be really reassuring, especially if you're newer to making herbal preparations. Fresh plant matter is just a little trickier because of the water content. So if it is something that's really full of water, like comfrey leaf, for example, I find that wilting it for at least a couple of days is a really good practice, so that you can make sure some of the water has evaporated out. And then I'll chop it up, but I won't powder I won't grind up the fresh plant matter, because that's just going to expose a lot of water. So I'll chop it up and put it in my jar. I'll fill my jar all the way full this time with fresh. I'll do the same alcohol method, a teaspoon, let it steep for 20 minutes, shake it up, and then fill that all the way to the top with oil. Again, not leaving any oxygen. Cap it, label it, let it sit for at least 2 weeks, and then you can strain it out. And my other pro tip for the fresh plant oil is, when straining, make sure you're not squeezing the fresh plant matter, because that's going to be squeezing squeezing water into your oil. We don't want that. So I'll strain it through a coffee filter within a little sieve, within a strainer. And I'll just tip my jar over and walk away and let it passively strain for like 12 hours to overnight. And then, bottle it the next day. And it'll be a lovely fresh plant infused oil.
So did you use the alcohol in both the dry and the?
I do. I think it ups the shelf life, and it ups the extraction of, all the different constituents of the plant. You're going to get the alcohol soluble properties now, as well as the oil soluble properties. Question?
So the alcohol is 1 teaspoon per
half a cup of herb.
You let that steep for 20 minutes?
Yep.
There's a question here about the heat method for making chaga in oil. Do you use the heat method or do you use the cold method?
I use a crock pot for chaga oil too. And just for a couple days, keep warm on the counter, and then I'll just jar it up as normal. Yeah.
There's no double extraction with.
Well, I do use a little bit of alcohol, you know, so that kind of is, but no, it's not like making a double extraction tincture. You're right.
And then there's Gretchen's commenting here that she teaches a children's workshop where they get to make their own salve from spruce gum. And she's had some parents ask about not using alcohol and what could you use instead?
Oh, for making a salve with spruce?
She said salve, yeah, but maybe Gretchen.
You shouldn't need to use alcohol for spruce because it's fully emulsifiable in oil.
It is.
So I actually wouldn't in spruce or any resin anyway. So like even in my cottonwood bud oil, I tend to not use alcohol. And yeah, any pine resin I wouldn't need to because it does fully, you know.
So
dissolve
high
into the oil.
resinous plants are okay to not.
Yes, they're oil soluble. They're also high alcohol proof soluble. So you wouldn't be able to dissolve like a resin fully into vodka. You'd have to use Everclear. Yeah. Yeah, it could be awkward with like a preschool program coming up with like a bottle of vodka. That would be uncomfortable. Oh, look, it's ready. Okay. So if you want to come up and see what we're looking for, when the mixture is ready to emulsify, this is about what we're looking at. It's gonna be hard maybe to see.
There's your new Zoom. I hope this works. Hope you're not getting too dizzy.
Looks good, I think. Okay, we're looking for a little bit of an opaque layer here, both on the top and the side. It looks a little bit like a salve right now. All right. Looks good. Okay, now here's where the magic happens. This is a total practice and trust. I'm gonna turn on my blender without a lid. It's gonna be fine. There we go. Okay, actually, I should say this before I turn on the blender because it's gonna be really loud and I'm gonna be yelling and I don't want to. So the key next here, what I'm going to be doing is pouring my water's portion in a thin stream, just like mayo, making mayo, right into the vortex. Okay, so that's the key there. And away we go. When it starts to choke and sputter, I take my spatula, my rubber scraper, and just get off all of these, you know, more solidified oils off of the side. And then I just start to blend again.
What speed is your blender on?
1.
Speed 1.
And that's it.
So the slowest speed.
I felt it. I don't really know. Blenders can be so different, but yes, it's the slowest speed for me, which I feel like is kind of fast. So that's it. I'll just show everyone, and also I'm kind of glad it's a small group because I did bring some jars, so everyone can take some home tonight. Now, if you are wanting to add essential oils, this would be the time. You could add them after everything, you know, is emulsified. Just drop it right in here and then do like 1 more second on the blender so everything, you know, has been mixed in. But I didn't bring essential oils in case anyone was sensitive to those tonight. So it's just, you know, a beautiful, simple calendula and rosewater cream. And lovely and shelf stable and incredibly healing and brightening to the skin, and, you know, really nice antimicrobial properties and uplifting scent and energy as well. Now comes the fun part of pouring into jars.
Yeah.
Jars.
Love when that happens. It's very frustrating. Remember that opaque part.
Yeah.
Like there's things. Okay. Yeah, it depends on where you got the recipe from.
Rosemary.
Okay, from her book.
But then I might have gotten a little bit cheated. Like maybe, I'm sure it was probably operator error on my part. But
So what
Oh, that
happened to
happens.
yours?
it separated. I've made
Okay.
mayo a ton of times.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't usually have to
embarrassing
let
for
it
me.
settle when you make mayo, though.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm not in the recipe. I don't remember.
Well, when I took her course, it was like very, she made it like a really big deal
Okay.
that you were supposed to wait, and like you
Yes.
can't wait too long. And so I got
Yes.
really stressed,
Yeah.
and I did it one night, and it was like amazing.
We haven't opened.
Yeah.
We just got it.
All of that.
So it would separate is what would be the problem if you didn't.
Yeah.
wait for it to-
Yeah, and then, you know, worst cases, you just have to shake it before you use it. So it's not like the whole thing is a waste, but
You can make it on a super hot day versus the dead of winter.
just
I mean,
use
it just seems like it could seize up quicker, maybe.
yeah,
Do you
there's definitely
have
that.
the water is just kind of like a little warmer, like it's
I mean, unfortunately, I'll say that my partner, he always has the air conditioning on, so like our house is the same temp, which I hate, but
never,
actually
like, super hot and
oh, it's always just like 66. You know what?
it's really, yeah.
It is, and I'm like a cold constitution. And there is a vent right in my kitchen where I do all my cooking, right by my toes.
blowing
So
up your-
yeah, so in the summer it's like freezing.
So
Anyway.
for the questions on Zoom, someone asked for clarification of how much rose water. That was 3/4 cup of rose water.
It was 2/3.
2/3 a cup of rose
Yeah.
water. And then 1/3 of the aloe vera
Aloe vera.
to
Yeah,
create 1 cup.
yeah.
And then someone's sharing that they finally figured out how to use frosting bags to fill their lotion bottles, and it was a game
fun.
changer. That's so smart, Barb.
Good for you.
And then as you fill your jars, you're getting lots of praise on here. So thank you for the class. I learned a lot.
Oh yeah.
And thank you. This was wonderful.
I thought I was getting praise about filling the jar. I was like, I have had a lot of practice.
Well,
Thank you.
And feel free to add more questions if there's anything else that you guys are thinking of on Zoom as we do
Yeah.
this step.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer other random questions too about plants. Doesn't have to be about creams.
Oh,
either.
do you ever add glitter? Because in your shop, you used to have some things that have a little glitter. So
Yeah.
bet
I had
that
some
you have done.
mica creams. Yeah. And favorite goddess glow oil that had some mica cream, and it was like coconut, St. John's wort, cottonwood. vanilla. Oh my goodness.
I love your turmeric.
Oh, the face serum.
Like
Turmeric vanilla with bergamot.
Oh, yum. We've got a few more questions coming in.
Okay.
What would you use for sore muscles?
Okay. Cottonwood bud, goldenrod, flower and leaf. St. John's wort, of course. Those are like the trifecta for me. Yeah. What else? Oh, some really nice pain relieving essential oils that I put in my pain relief salve. I like marjoram sweet and sweet birch. Like I want to write that down. And
next question. When you're filling your jars, do you also have to leave as little airspace as possible?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I try to, because this batch makes a lot of cream. So also you're like, you want to fit every last bit into the jar. But yeah, I guess I never thought of that. That's probably best practice.
Let's see. Kelly, yes, you will get these steps when we send our next newsletter mailing if you've already signed up for it.
Is that Kelly Shea?
That is Kelly Shea.
I can give her the rest. She's in my 6-month program.
Oh, awesome.
So she has the recipe in our notes and I can give them to her.
Let's see. Even
here. Oh.
Hi, Kelly. I love you. Hi.
Hey. Even though you
Heather loved it so much she had to come for a second time.
I know. I didn't realize that we were going to do it. I was like, I don't know. Oh well.
It's good.
I've already did this class.
I bet you learned something new.
Deborah, yes,
Yeah.
we'll be sending out the ingredient list in our next newsletter.
I know.
Sorry you got bumped out of Zoom.
I also did. So I wrote some scraps of paper. Like me, my plans are living now. I'm simply I don't
So now that we look at this, what will be the consistency with the garden?
It'll still be nice and soft and supple, and like it'll be a little bit more firm. So it won't get all like messy and soft.
Now I have one.
Jesse, can you read? There's a question on here. Can you restate the trifecta?
Oh, for the sore muscles.
For the sore muscles, yeah.
Cottonwood bud, goldenrod, flower and leaf, and St. John's wort.
So you have to use the flowers. St. John's wort. I grew some, but it never flowered. It's just.
Oh no, it probably will next year. Did you grow it this year?
Yeah,
It's
mine
a perennial, so
mine
it'll
never
grow
flowered
it'll
either.
flower next year.
Mine never flowered either. But
Is it first year?
yeah.
That's
And
why.
like, I mean, I found a bunch in our class, but like
Yeah.
the one I grew at home never flowered. So I don't know.
Next year, you're gonna make
Next year.
great St. John stuff.
Yeah.
How about beauty of prism? Did that flower the second year? I still have never had it flower. And can you just use the leaves?
I actually don't know. Immortelle. I don't know. But oh my gosh, you grew that? Wow, I've never grown that. Beautiful.
That's cool.
The
Did
flower
you do like that strictly medicinal seeds or where'd you get it from?
I actually got it from the, what is it, the big plant sale, the school.
Oh,
Yeah.
Friends plant sale.
What is it, friends? Oh, I didn't go to that.
Was that this year? I mean,
like
you just
I
got it.
last year
feel like it was like
and
Ridley or
Oh.
something when that.
Maybe it's too-
Go. Yeah.
Maybe it's not the right growing conditions here.
I planted, yeah, it could be. I planted in 2 different areas just to see if anything changed, but they're
Yeah.
both growing beautifully. They just don't get flowers.
Wow, I wonder, there's always hope for next year.
Or you could
I'm thinking
try
it
to
might be
do
a second year, like
say,
St. John's wort. I don't know.
or
Yeah.
you could use like, God, I got like some sort of fertilizer on it, like I don't remember what brand is.
I tried comfrey on it,
Oh, yeah.
but I've only done it once, so I don't know if
Find the brand
I was
that I
supposed to do
use.
it.
Yeah.
Maybe because offering.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like part of the underground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
leave a tobacco offering or sing a
Well, I'm
song.
actually growing up my husband's tobacco is actually.
Oh, there you go. Question?
That's the one I use, the Fox Farm.
Oh, okay.
Sure of those things, or how are you doing?
Oh, I'm infusing them into oil. So with the cottonwood bud, I like to infuse it into a tallow or some kind of animal fat because it helps it to really get past the derm or the epidermis. And goldenrod, I do in, you know, a lovely extra virgin olive oil. And my St. John's wort is in olive oil as well. And that's fresh plant infused oils.
Cottonwood buds.
Cottonwood and tallow, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Have you done, pine bud?
Pine bud? No, I've done pine resin or pine needle. But yeah.
Tiny little pine buds.
Oh, like the tips.
Yeah, they have a lot of.
Oh, beautiful. I've never made an oil with that, but that would be lovely. Have you? Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like
Drying now, and I also made a tincture.
lovely. Yeah, that sounds like a good project next.
We're just getting into this, we're really new.
Fun. That's awesome.
So the pine resin would be like, what, how do you get the pine resin?
Yeah, I just melt it in a little crock
So now
pot.
when you go to the, like, just scrape off the, you know,
I ask and I take whatever falls into my hand.
so, I mean, it's like.
There's
pieces of
knobs
bark?
on the tree.
So, okay. Red pine
Mhm.
is the most abundant in resins, and that is our state tree. The Norway pine is another name for it. And I find that they have like chunky pieces on the tree that you
Okay,
can just
so-
take off.
So I see, yeah, okay.
But the white pine is a little bit more withholding of its resin, I've noticed.
And the cones, a lot of times it is.
Hmm,
So sometimes if I really felt like doing a tedious project,
you get it off the cone.
yeah, you can just like, no.
So then you would melt the resin with oil, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there,
Melt it down
is
in
there
it.
a proportion or you just throw some in?
Chunks.
Okay,
I'm not good with, you know, exact recipes necessarily when I'm in the kitchen, like inspired. It's like a chunk here, a chunk there,
okay.
everywhere, chunk.
But if you don't, like, 'cause I do pine resin wax, I took your pine medicine class.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was- But you don't need very much because it's so sticky, so it's maybe, you know, like this, like the jar is this big, like that much resin
Yeah.
or something, with the oil, because it.
It is really, it's really warm too. So like in energetics, it's like hot. I mean, yeah, you could say like 1 to 4, 1 part resin to 4 parts oil.
You know, years ago.
Oh, did you not get one?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
The pine.
I have a lot if anyone wants to slather.
They didn't take the pine and make.
Yeah.
And that was. Truly medicinal. They gave that, people drank it.
Yeah.
You know, they used it externally.
Yeah.
Now you didn't fear about its poison.
Right.
You know? But there's a good company out there called Georgia Products. that
Oh.
Still makes. The glass bottles.
Cool. I'm very interested in that actually. In a lot of the old like eclectic and physiomedicalist herbal books, you know, they were doctors, but there was a lot about turpentine that's written, and I've been very interested in at least just having that as like in my herbal cabinet for different preparations. And also I feel like it could be nice to just like with the alcohol, like to help extract things a little bit even before you make an oil. Might be nice. Oh, cool.
Goal to get turpentine to it. First one was more successful than the second.
That'll happen.
Separated.
Oh, sure. Interesting. Fascinating. Yeah, I want to know more about turpentine.
People can't complain if they're given.
That's right.
So if you give it away.
Yeah.
Hey Jessie, someone's asking if you know like the secret to rendering tallow without getting the smell. Do you render your own or you get it from someplace else?
I've rendered my own, really low heat. And, you know, I've heard too, some people have add water, like just a little bit of water, but I've never done that because I don't want any water in mine. But yeah, just super, super low heat and don't forget about it. But you can really like let it go until you get those. If you're doing, usually I'll do like lard, sometimes the deer tallow if I'm lucky enough to get it. And once you start to get those cracklings, so you know the extra, like, I don't know if it's like ligaments or flesh or whatever is kind of left on the fat, that you can also eat. Once you start to get those, you don't want them really like sizzling and simmering in the tallow. You want to strain that out pretty quickly so that it's not like cooking in the tallow or lard, because then that'll start to smell more like bacon than a nice clean lard or tallow. Anybody else? That
Your
renders?
towels smell like wild?
Oh, it smells just clean. It's like very, very clean scent. Hard to explain even, like no musky anything.
Leaf lard. I've used that for pie crust because
Yeah.
it has less of a porky
Yeah.
flavor and it doesn't have like a bunch of extra stuff.
What kind of lard?
Leaf lard?
So it's like
It's
the
like on top
kidney
of the-
fat
Yeah, or it's like like on top of
the pig.
or the pancreas or something.
Yeah.
It is almost sheet-like, like crumbly, but it doesn't have any weird little bits, so it's pretty easy to render.
Yeah. And I think at least you used to be able to, yeah, I was gonna
I
say,
don't have it because it's great for pie.
yeah, yeah. So I'm pretty sure you could even buy it here. You can get leaf lard here.
Is there a certain spot of the deer you're supposed to get it from?
It's the fat that you melt
Anywhere.
down.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter where.
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah. Do you know any hunters? I'm like trying to find some.
All
good-
my sons.
Oh, awesome. You are a blessed
Supply the whole
woman.
field.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
Nice.
honey, now when you do the deer, I need all the fat.
Yeah. I know us herbalists get into all kinds of weird things. And we to ask people all kinds of, can you save that for me? And like, what are you doing? What are you doing now?
Could you tell me about your class?
The 6-month class?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I have a couple announcements. So yeah, my 6-month course, it's a Foundations in Traditional Western Herbalism class, although we learn a lot about you know, Ayurvedic medicine. We talk about the doshas, we cover constitutions. So we also talk about the humoral temperaments. We cover some intro to 5-element theory, so traditional Chinese medicine theory as well. But yeah, it's all outdoors every Monday, once a week for 6 months. So it is a commitment. And then one full Saturday a month where we're in the field identifying plants and making medicines and having lectures. It's a certificate course and we tend to cut off the group at about 15. So we have a really nice core group. And at the end of the 6 months, we do a whole class camp out and we go spend some time together in the woods and hang out and have, you know, more of like our intense end of the course classes. So it's almost like a festival kind of thing, you know, where we're all together. And
It's funny because I just read about it and now to realize that you're the one that.
oh, cool. Yeah, it's
I'm
really
saying
fun.
We look familiar because of the picture, but I was like, no.
Where's the course?
We do it all throughout the Twin Cities, but we just meet outdoors. Everything is outdoors. So we meet around like Crosby Farms. We'll do some classes there. We've done things at Hidden Falls. We had some classes at my friend Heidi's place at Bluebird Hill Homestead. We kind of like pop all around. Yeah. Yeah. She's awesome.
Wow.
And then also this Saturday, I have 2 spots left in a tongue and pulse assessment class that I'm doing in River Falls. It's at Healing Roots. I think it's just called Healing Roots in River Falls. And it's a healing center there. We'll have a nice group of 10 people, hopefully. And it's kind of like a speed dating thing where you will talk all about the tongue and how to, you know, identify different imbalances and things like that. And then we'll feel pulses and we'll do like, you'll switch off partners and you'll get to record, you know, draw their tongue, talk about what you're feeling with their pulse, and then we'll test remedies and have fun doing that too. So if you're interested, you talk to me after class. It's this Saturday in River Falls. And it's 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
There's only 2 spots left, so you gotta sign up now if you want it.
Get them now.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
This was
you.
fabulous. Thanks for being here.
Yay, I'm
Thanks
so
for
glad
being
to
in
be
person
here.
and on Zoom. We'll send out that recipe in our next newsletter, and that'll come out in sometime before November or October 3rd, when our next book club is. So book club's coming up the 3rd.
November 3rd.
November. Wait, no, we have our October meeting is first. So I lied. That's actually in October 16th. So that would be our next event. So watch for our newsletter coming out probably the first week of October, and that's where we'll add this recipe. So
Awesome.
thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
When do you start the 6 taking